Kapoor hosting once again. And once again, joining me is
Montserrat Marquez.
And like I said in the intro, it is time for the Mets talk. And, they got a little scandal going on, quote unquote. And so just to give you a little bit of context here, since the beginning of August, the Mets have started to flash a thumbs down sign after a big hit or as a celebration. And it looked like it was just something to hype each other up, like something between the players. And then, they've been playing horrible baseball in the past month. They've been getting booed by their fans. And then Javi Baez asked about it. And he's like, yeah, the fans have to just be better. If they're going to boo us when we're doing bad, we're going to boo them when we're doing well. Not the best way to go about it. I just got to be honest. As a fan, booing is fine. I'm totally on board with that. And it's not necessarily booing the players, in my opinion. It's more like booing the organization for, putting maybe a bad product on the field. And as a Nats fan, I haven't booed as much. We won the World Series, cool. And so what do you think about this? I know you're a big Javi Baez fan. What do you think about booing in general? And then what do you think about the players booing the fans back?
I feel like booing is really part of any sport, really. It's not only baseball. You have boos everywhere in every sport, right? It's a matter of fan pride, I guess, how prideful they are of a team or of a player, right? So I feel like Mets fans are just really want the Mets to win, right? And I feel like booing for Mets fans is just a way to motivate them. I just find it really funny how Mets players boo the fans back. I guess Javi Baez, I love Javi Baez. I lived in Puerto Rico, so for me, Puerto Rican God, right?
Absolutely.
But really, I feel like it's not the best way to get off the right foot, right? With your new team, right? Your new set of fans. Of course, El Mago is always El Mago, right? He's gonna have this flashy personality. He's gonna say what he's thinking. And I think in this case, the Mets players are just being petty, right?
Yeah.
I think, like you said, I don't think the fans are disappointed in the players themselves, right? I don't think they go around the street oh, this player sucks, right? I just think that it's they're disappointed in the organization because they know they can do so much better, right? And I think everyone thinks that, right? With Lindor coming to the Mets, right? We all thought the Mets had some sort of potential. Pete Alonso just hitting home runs. Jacob deGrom just being the Jacob deGrom, I guess.
Jacob deGrom. Yeah.
And I just feel like it's funny. It's comical being a non-Mets fan, seeing that happen, because I just could never imagine players doing that. And I guess they were just mad because they weren't feeling the support. I just think they're being a little bit petty, but I think it's all gonna be washed away eventually, right? They're gonna some point win something.
Yeah, I mean, in any sport, winning cures all ills. And the Mets, they swept a doubleheader against the Marlins in their past games, and Javi Baez scored from first on a walk-off single. And so that's a signature play, as a Met for Baez now. And it is interesting because, like you said, you were just saying, he's saying what he's thinking. And we don't want to discourage players from having their own personalities in sports. Hockey does this. Hockey, they're oh, we should have more personalities. And then when players showcase their personalities, hockey media just drags them forward. And that's not what baseball should be doing. Baseball should be hyping up the personalities of these players because, they're great personalities.
I think a little bit, this applies a little bit here, but I think the main philosophy is taking what you give, right? If you boo the players, and they boo you back, I guess just laugh it out. It's no hard feelings. They don't personally know you because you're booing them. They just
and it's when the Mets do something good. So as a fan, you should be excited for that.
Exactly. Exactly. If they boo you, it's they're having their fun. They're winning. That's good. I want them to win. They want to win. So it's all working out. If they want to boo us, fine. We'll boo you back.
Yeah. And I mean, for booing, the biggest thing I can think of is when Bryce Harper comes back to Nats Park, he gets booed a lot. And he plays really, really well when he visits Nats Park, and he feeds off of that. And I'm just like, stop booing it. He likes it. He feeds off of it. Like that's his personality. He's that kind of guy, and I think it's stupid to boo him because he followed the money. I understand it's a business. You get your contract in, and you go into a division rival. That's a whole different story, but. Bryce Harper is the kind of guy that if he's getting booed at this park that he played at for 7+ years, he's going to just do better. And he has been.
I feel like just some players thrive over being antagonized, right? Like they really like it. They feel like it gives them some sort of like, I'm not a baseball player, right? But I guess like it gives them some sort of like motivation to do better and prove the fans wrong. Definitely, like the Mets booing Javi and Pete, right? Because they were doing so poorly. It's funny because doing poorly is part of baseball, right? Like the Giants are doing poorly, the Dodgers were doing poorly, right? The Yankees were doing poorly. It's just part of baseball, right? And I guess the Mets were a little bit more vocal about it, right? And I feel like the players weren't really happy with how they were appreciating their work, I guess. But again, it's just part of baseball to do poorly, the boos, right? If you do poorly, expect some boos from your own fans. And if they do well, I guess in this case, expect some boos from your players.
Yeah, and like for something in like an internal team thing to hype each other up, like you can just do that and not explain it to everyone. Like you can just flash the thumbs down to each other as a celebration to hype each other up. And that'll be perfectly fine. You can just be like, oh, it's a team thing. You know what? It hypes us up after we get a big hit. You don't have to say to the fans, you guys have to be better, because that's just never going to fly. Like no matter your explanation, no matter what you say after, it's just some fans are just going to be disillusioned with it.
I'm feeling very philosophical right now, so I'm going to say another saying, but I guess like don't go against the player, go against the ball, right? Like you don't have to attack the fans personally if they're the ones going to the game, right? Like they're the ones paying the tickets, right? Like you don't have to say like be better. I just feel like it's just, if they would have approached it as a more like playful thing, like, yeah, we get booed a lot, but we decided to boo like as part of the ritual, I guess, right? We hope it's going to bring us some sort of motivation, right? Like that's totally fine, but because you're not going against the fans, right? You're going against you're laughing off the terrible streak, right? Like you just want to get over it, and that's fine. Just don't go against people.
Yeah. And like, it's interesting to think like the Mets, they have been playing very poorly. And there's some teams like, I mean, Derek Jeter comes to mind, Giancarlo Stanton on the Yankees. Like they're like, yeah, I deserve to get booed. They should be booing me. I'm playing horribly. I'm not showing up for my team. And it makes sense that they're doing this. That's one way to go about the situation. The other way is to be like, I hate being booed. I don't like it. You guys shouldn't be doing that. And I'm going to boo you back. And I think there's a clear, like Derek Jeter was one of the great leaders in baseball on the Yankees. And that's the way he just went about it. Maybe that's just him talking to the media, being, just saying what the media and the fans want to hear. And maybe he truly thinks the way Baez does, and Baez is just the kind of guy who says what he's feeling. And, that's just how he is. But I feel like there's just a better way to go about this. And that would be just to keep it an internal thing and like I said earlier, if you're doing well, the fans are going to be fine. If you're flashing the thumbs down after you hit a walk-off homer, you don't need to say I'm booing the fans. You can just say, oh yeah, that's the thing we do, but we got the win. We walked it off for you guys. That's all you got to say.
What more can you expect? Right? Yeah. Definitely. And I guess like a little bit plays a part of like how well players can handle the stress, because I feel like now, like looking to the other side, right? Like fans need to see that they're just people, right? Like, yeah, of course they're players, right? And they get paid a lot to do things, right? But at the end of the day, they're people and they handle stress like everyone does. People don't really like to be criticized that much. They don't like working their butts off and getting booed at the end, right? Like it's two sides of the same coin, right? Like whether you want to see it from the player's perspective and agree with Baez, or see it from the fans' perspective and agree with the fans, right? Like I guess like I was talking with someone about this, and they said it builds character, right? They're a Mets fan, and they said like it builds character, and I guess it does. But at the same time, like I feel bad for the players because they see a necessity to even think about booing the fans in the first place, right? Like I guess like you said, controversial because it is like whether you see it from one side or the other, there's no like right answer.
Yeah, and it's interesting the way this Mets season has gone is there's any time, fans or the media like try to point out like, oh, you guys are playing poorly. And I mean, the owner comes in and tweets, it's baffling how players can have this kind of lack of discipline. And the Mets organization, the players and the coaches they kind of go after them. They're like, don't frame us in this negative light. Pete Alonso, he's like, just smile, we'll get through it. And Luis Rojas, the manager, he's like David Martinez. He likes to go with a little excess positivity, which isn't a bad thing, but it's not acknowledging the reality of the situation. And the reality at multiple points throughout the season was that the Mets are just not playing well. And anything for Mets fans, I think I'm just going to keep repeating this. Anything to get the team to win is totally fine. I feel like I'm not a Mets fan. If I was a Nats fan, the Nats are flashing thumbs down, but they're winning. I don't care about that. I care about the fact that they're winning.
Exactly. Like at the end of the day, if they're winning, a win is a win, right? Whether they mock you for booing them or not. I feel like the thumbs down was more like a mocking thing, right? Than anything else. I think, again, like the media made it escalate towards something that was terrible, right? That Javi Baez was 100% wrong. And I feel like he was coming from a place of like stress, right? Like, and everyone, right? Pete Alonso, Lindor, right? Like they were coming from a place of like, we know we're losing, right? We're trying to do better. We're trying to win. We know we aren't a good team. There's no need to, attack us or make us the villains, right? When in reality, we want the same thing that you want, and it's winning the World Series, right?
Yeah, and I mean the Sandy Alderson, the Mets team president, he in response to the Baez comments, he said any comments or gestures by our players is unacceptable, unprofessional, won't be tolerated. It's like there's going to be a team meeting, and then after this, Lindor and Baez apologized, and like it's like you look at what Baez said. He said. This is a direct quote. He said, "It doesn't really get to me, but I want to let the fans know that when we're successful, we're going to do the same thing to them and let them know how it feels."
Mm-hmm.
That's just weird. I don't really get it.
I feel like again, it's just coming from a place like letting them see that, like now that we're winning, what do you have to say, right? Like you only want us when we win, right? Like. And again, like booing is part of any sport, right? Like if you boo, you get booed, whatever, right? Just prove them wrong, right? It could be either, I guess, like this controversy could go either way, right? Like whether you agree with the fans, right? Like it's unacceptable for them to boo them back when they're winning, right? Or whether you see the players like, oh, it's just a playful thing, right? Like now you feel how we feel when we get booed, right? Like you are terrible fans. I guess like it just depends on whose side you're on, right? And at the end of the day, right, the Mets don't really have a chance of getting to the playoffs at this point, right? So it's just moving forward, winning as many games as you can, racing averages, lowering ERAs, right? It just looking forward to next year, I think should be the mentality for the Mets at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, I've never played a professional game of baseball in my life, and so I don't know.
Neither have I.
I don't know the way the play, and I think the way Javi Baez described it is probably the way a lot of players feel. I mean, but it's something about professional sports. Is it just ingrained in the culture of professional sports? If a team is bad, most fans are not going to stop supporting them. The Mets have not been amazing in a long time. They've made the World Series in 2015, but they haven't really done anything since. But the hardcore Mets fans aren't just going to drop the Mets. Like it's part of the culture of these people's lives. And so that's the kind of unconditional support that a lot of professional sports teams have. And so that's why I think the fans took this really hard because they're like, we've supported, like, New York fans in general, like they support their team through thick and thin. And so when especially a new player, especially a player acquired at the trade deadline says something like this, I get why it's so frustrating and it could put you down a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I think like, again, going back, I feel like the reason why they did it is because like doing it, they didn't think it was going to lead to so many repercussions, right? Like having to do a public apology to the fans, right? I think that sort of devotion that fans have towards the team, right? I thought they kind of like took advantage of it, right? They were going to say like, oh, if we do this fun little thing, right, they're not going to hate us, right? And they ended up getting hate, you know? It's just unfortunate to see like new players like Lindor and Baez that are relatively new to the team, right? Just like get booed, right, and get hate right off the bat, right? And now, like, I guess again, they just have to, both fans and players have to move on from this year. 2021 was not your year. Get over it, you know, move on to next year, rebuild, have DeGrom back, right, healthy, maybe acquire some new pitchers or some new players, right? Like it's right at this point, like let them be, let the players be, let the kids play, I guess. And if they want to boo you back, take it and laugh it off, you know, like at the end of the day, again, like it's not a personal attack on anyone. They just don't really like getting booed, which I think no one does in reality, unless you're Bryce Harper, you know, and likes to get booed by Mets fans. It's just part of the game.
Yeah, and you know, the Mets season has been overshadowed by controversy at every turn. I mean, you know, at the beginning of the season, Mickey Callaway doing what he did, sending, you know, unsolicited messages. We don't have to get into that, but and then just recently, acting GM Zach Scott is arrested for DUI, and like there's a lot of controversy around the Mets, and like I said, if you're winning, none of it matters. It just doesn't, and you know, to the detriment of some of these controversies that are more off the field. And like you said, this season, you know, Carlos Carrasco was hurt for a long time. Noah Syndergaard's coming back, and you know, next season they're going to be stronger. And so at this point, you know, where they're probably out of the race, maybe 4 or 5 games back, but the way they're playing, you know, and even if they do happen to make the playoffs, they can't beat the Brewers, they can't beat the Dodgers, they can't beat the Giants. So that's just this season. It is unfortunate for Mets fans, especially people who have stuck with this team throughout, you know, just how rough it's been over the past couple of years. And so, you know, it's just these kind of controversies, it hits fans pretty hard, especially when players are going after them the way they have been.
I think it changes a lot. I think like moving away a little bit from the fans and just like people in general and what image the MLB wants to give off to non-fans, right? Or potential new fans. It's unfortunate to have so many controversies from a team that's in a big city, right? With a bunch of different people from a bunch of different places, right? And it's just like, I feel like people who see this are like, oh, so the players don't really like the fans and the fans don't really like the players, so why would I even root for this team, right? So it's just unfortunate to see like the image of baseball getting quote unquote tainted, because I think it's just going to be forgotten, right? Like give it a couple of weeks, right? Like I think it's just people are gonna move on, but as of right now, the controversies that surround the Mets are really hard to look over, I guess.
Yeah, and on that note, we are going to wrap up here on a little Mets talk edition of the M2M Network. For M2M Baseball, my name is Khalin Kapoor, joined once again by
Montserrat Marquez.
It's great to have you here to talk about the Mets, and we will catch you guys in the next video. See you next time.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to our channel, the M2M Network, for more sports and entertainment content.